Communications coordinator. Thanks so much for coming in. Did I say that incorrectly? Sorry.
Communications manager now.
Communications manager, Katarina.
Sorry, Ryan, I don't have your mic on. Just a second here.
Let's try this again.
Now we can hear you, I think.
Good morning, Ryan.
There it is.
Welcome
Good morning.
officially.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Ryan.
That's okay.
Now, we wanted to have you on the show because we really just wanted to take, some time to talk about the process of when evacuees are coming into Fort St. John, how we're helping them. Maybe there are some evacuees just coming into the city. What do they do? What's the process? So I wanted to take a minute to talk about that. Let's talk about you're coming straight to Fort St. John. You're in evacuation order. What happens? Where do you go?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reception center, the Emergency Support Services Reception Center is the place to go. And typically that's set up at the North Peace Arena. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have to move it around a little bit, but currently it's at the North Peace Arena. And that's where people will come, get registered, and then get referrals for services. And so sometimes that looks like vouchers for hotels. Sometimes that the province has updated their system a little bit, and so you can now receive e-transfers for things like food, so you don't have to pick a restaurant to go to for 3 or 7 days in a row, or you can now get the equivalent e-transferred into your bank account, and you can go pick your restaurants a little bit more to your choosing. And so it's just really an opportunity for us to support those people that have been impacted and provide them some services.
Now, the city has done a really great job, by the way, at, connecting with local businesses and organizations and kind of putting stuff together of like, this is what's happening today, this is what's happening tomorrow. How are you letting the evacuees know what's going on? Yeah,
absolutely. So, obviously, before we get into that, just a huge thank you to our community, from the private residents to the businesses that have come out and donated, supplies. And anytime we put a call out, it's answered immediately. We, put a call out for pet supplies the other day, and within an hour, the trailer was full. We had to put extra supplies into a back room because we didn't have room for it anymore. So amazing. And then obviously, the businesses that are offering discounts and open their doors for free activities and all those things for evacuees is incredible. There's barbecues for evacuees happening. There was one a couple days ago. There's one tonight. Just amazing community. And that's, we are the Energetic City for a reason, and we come together to support those in their time of need. And that's obviously what makes our community great. But really the evacuees, we're touching base with them fairly regularly. And so at the reception center, we're letting them know that there are activities that are happening. Take a look at our Facebook page. Those will be updated regularly. On Tuesday, when we did see over 1,000 files with renewal day for Fort Nelson, we had printed off that list. And so we made a poster of what was going on that day, where they could get more information, and everybody was handed one of those as well. And so just obviously we know how impactful it is to be out, but then once you get your services, that's great. You've got a hotel room now for 7 days, but you're just sitting in a hotel room, and so it's important that you get out and see other people locally, but also some of the people from Fort Nelson where you're evacuated with. You can kind of talk through those experiences.
So you did kind of touch on the renewal, and what is renewal, and how often are evacuees having to check in at the evacuation center?
Yeah, that really depends on each event. So typically the initial piece is 72 hours of supports. And so when the initial evacuation order comes down, we're authorized for 72 hours.
Okay.
And then from there, it can change. And so sometimes we can receive authorization from the province and the emergency management branch there, that we can do a 7-day renewal. And so that is obviously helpful because it provides a bit of stability for those people that are evacuated, but also allows us to staff up with volunteers and with staff to process those renewals on one day instead of every 3 days. So we do have a big influx for one day, but then we can take a bit of a breather for 6 days and get everybody a little bit of recovery. And so that's what you're seeing now is we've reduced our hours from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. instead of, the initial was we were open, I think, 48 of the first 56 hours. So we had, people that had worked from Friday night right through till Saturday night when we finally closed at 11 p.m. And so it's important. Obviously, there's stressful situations for the evacuees, but also for anybody that's working in those reception centers. And it's important that they take the rest and recovery that they need as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ryan, you said you got to staff up. How much staff are you talking about? Because I know you're involved in it and you're a city employee, but there's also lots of volunteers who really make this run, including I think our own MLA was doing a shift as a volunteer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's amazing. We've had Fort Nelson residents who have been evacuated have come into the reception center and have been like, where can we help?
Wow.
And so those are things, that happen. So on renewal day, we processed over 1,000 files, as I said. So that was 1,000 of about the 1,300 or so that had come in the first 3 days. We were able to get through that line pretty much by about 2 o'clock. We were supposed to be open 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. We were able to close about 7:30. And so that was nice. But we had over 60 volunteers and staff in on that day.
Wow.
At one point in time, we had a bit of network problems because there were so many people on, and there was on our network, and there was over 60 pieces of technology connected to the network when our IT team looked at it. So, with it all kind of switching to digital, and this being our first experience in that world, it was certainly a bit of a learning experience. But yeah, it's quite the process for sure.
Yeah, and I guess logically, what's kind of next here? Because as you said, everyone's kind of taking a breather now. The reception center will be open a few hours every day, but not as much. In terms of renewals and sort of that thing, if this situation continues for everybody involved, is there another renewal that'll be at 7 days again, after the long weekend sort of a thing?
Yeah, certainly that is if the situation doesn't improve, that'll certainly come down from the province, and so they're working obviously with BC Wildfire Service, with the EOC, the Fort Nelson EOC, Emergency Operations Center. Sorry for the acronym. So we're kind of a function of those organizations, and so they'll be discussing what their plan is, what their reentry plan is, when it's safe to reenter, all of those things. And so, as you can imagine, as soon as you take 3,000, 4,000 people out of a community, there's a bit of a plan to get them back, right? So we got an update yesterday at the residents meeting that thankfully they haven't lost power yet, which obviously is good. That means fridges are still working and all of those things. So you might have some rotten food in your fridge, but at least you don't have to get
Take
a new
your
fridge
fridge out,
because of everything. And so that's good news. So thankfully, you don't have to renew or get utilities back up, but you're still talking about, you need to restaff the hospital. You need to restaff the grocery stores and get them restocked and cleaned up. And obviously they'll have product that has expired or whatever, right? And so there are several steps to that process that kind of have to take place. And so that's what that EOC is working on right now, that Emergency Operations Center for Fort Nelson is what does reentry look like? Of course, they're working on, continuing to support wildfire and what they need and structure protection and making sure that if anything does take a change for the worst, that those things are still being planned for. But certainly looking at how to reenter and get these people home, because it's great that we're able to support them here, but I'm sure they want to go home.
Yeah.
Now, Ryan, I want to thank you for your time. Before we wrap up, is there any reminders or anything you want to say to the community or the evacuees here?
Yeah, I think two messages. One, once again, just thank you to our community. This seems like unfortunately a bit of a regular occurrence the last decade or so. We've had to host other communities and our regional neighbors fairly routinely, but once again, they step forward and open their doors, and it's incredible to see. So big thank you to them. But secondly, we understand and we know how stressful the situation is. And so it's important that everybody takes the time that they need to themselves and understand that, for those evacuees out there, if they are struggling and if they do need assistance, that assistance is available. So we have psychosocial supports available at the North Peace Arena. And Northern Health is available with mental health and social work and counseling services. And so there are those supports needed. Service Canada's on site, Service BC's on site. And so there are supports available. If you need to apply for EI, there's people there that can help that process. And so we know how stressful it is, and we know, as you start to extend what this looks like, obviously it's one thing to, come out for a couple days, but with this renewal, that'll push them into close to 10 days. Yeah. And so that's, 10 days potentially without a paycheck. And so there are supports available. And, if anybody needs those supports, they are out there. And so come ask.
Where do they find those supports?
Yeah, primarily the North Peace Arena. So if there are people for the evacuees that need those supports, those people are on site at the North Peace Arena. Mm-hmm. If not, they can head to the city's website, and we have links and stuff provided there. They will be shared onto our social media pages as well here in the next little bit. But just ask for help if you need it.
One more thing, Ryan, again, today and tomorrow, what are the reception center hours?
Yeah, 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. For today and tomorrow. Trying to get a couple of our volunteers and staff some respite, and obviously understand that our staff also have been pulled from their regular duties to support this, and so trying to get them back into their offices and get caught up a little bit there as well. So just a little bit of reduced hours to try and get some people some rest, and making sure that in addition to supporting our neighbors, we're also able to support our residents.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for taking a few minutes for us today, Ryan.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. That's Ryan Harvey with the City of Fort St. John and the Emergency Support Services.
Hey, Rebecca, when